was looking at our city council meetings this past week and really having my doubts if there were any left when we had another tax increase in Duval County. But I'll tell you, there were a few out in the audience that flat let them know they weren't happy. So, my name is Bill Pitts. I'm the state chairman of the Republican Liberty Caucus. And I think we've got a few outstanding patriots here that have been fighting this battle for a number of years that we have, helping to preserve our liberty and freedom here in Florida. In addition to my role with the Republican Liberty Caucus, I'm also a general contractor here in Florida, constructor, and a real estate developer. Probably one of the industries that's hardest hit by this economic downturn that we have. And I'll tell you, it's been a real challenge. We've got a number of people that we're diligently working to get back to work. But on the lighter side, I will tell you, we definitely know how hard this economy has been hit. I heard on Bloomberg News this morning that Goldman Sachs was laying off 15 U.S. congressmen. I'll tell you, with all that we hear, though, there are some great things that are going on across this country. There are movements going on with the Campaign for Liberty, this 10th Amendment Center, the NullifyNow, the James Madison Institute, a number of pro-liberty groups, associations, events, people acting individually, and this should give every one of us great hope that this message is getting out. Look at the size of this group that we have, that every one of us are going to go out and continue to push this message out to our neighbors, our friends, and our local political offices, and that's where this battle has to occur, and this is where it's going to take place. When this country was founded, the role of the federal government, as we know, was limited to some very specific functions. And within the federal government, the role of the president was to have a very small role in the actions of our day-to-day lives. If we listen to the mainstream media, the only offices or positions that hold any importance is the office of the president, and now we're hearing of these Senate races as if we elect some senator coming out of the state of Florida, that every problem that has been pushed down to the state of Florida is going to be immediately solved. Well, I'll tell you, the most important races that we're going to have across this country are going to be for our state legislators, for our attorney generals, for our governors, and that's where the battle is going to occur. The next battle lines that we have, and I tell the people at the Tea Party when I attend there that get tired of hearing me, as they want to make their trip up to Washington, D.C., you're not going to get a solution out of Washington, D.C. If you haven't figured out by now, Washington, D.C. is the problem. They're not going to solve their own problem. We're going to solve this problem in the State House, in Tallahassee, or across this country, in the state capitals, and at the local level that we have. When we talk about this issue of nullification, what we're really talking about is preservation of the great experiment. The great experiment is what's under attack. When this republic was founded, our founding fathers envisioned a union of competing republics where the federal government had a very limited role in the affairs of the states. And the states were to have a great impact on the role of the lives of the people within the state, and then more of an impact in the local governments. Right now, the federal government is trying to create a massive national state of mediocrity, where the people of California are dictating what is legal and illegal in the state of Florida. And one of the things that with the Republican Liberty Caucus, we're working to make an impact within the Republican Party here in Florida, obviously here in Florida. And in talking with some of the legislators, some of them said, well, we've got some issue with some of this pro-liberty message that you have. And for the lady a little bit earlier speaking of this marijuana issue. And I said, you know, here's one of the things. You're talking about the Constitution. You're talking about pro-liberty. And you're in the state legislature. Would you tell me why you feel we're electing you all to go to Tallahassee and be in our state legislature, but for some reason you all need Washington, D.C. to tell you what should be legal and illegal in the state of Florida? No matter what your position is, if you were in the state legislature of the state of Florida, you ought to be asking the question, why are we determining what's legal and illegal in this state and then being dictated to by representatives coming out of Hawaii or New Hampshire to re-decide what we have already decided? That will tell you that this role of dual sovereignty has become out of kilter as a result of the federal encroachments in the lives of every person in every state of this country. James Madison, the primary draft of the U.S. Constitution, stated that each state in ratifying the Constitution is considered as a sovereign body, independent of all others, and is only bound by its own voluntary act. In this relation, the new Constitution will, if established, be a federal and not a national constitution, a federation of states that has a system of dual sovereignty. And again, trying to dissolve this system of dual sovereignty, this authority that is inherent in the states that has been given by the people, is what is under attack. And it's under attack that we have right now. If we look at the source of both every problem in the Union, it could be from a failure to respect and understand sovereignty. That's for the national, state, local, and individual. Today, the federal government seeks to control every aspect of our lives as individuals in the state of Florida. There now exists unlimited federal regulatory and legislative power, and I want to reemphasize that, unconstitutional federal government regulation and legislative power to deal with perceived problems within the state of Florida, including unfunded mandatory regulations like this new health care bill that we have, that if they continue, they're going to force our local governments and our states into insolvency and eventually bankruptcy, which we're already seeing in local governments and states across the Union. There are now over 3,000 federal laws and 10,000 regulations enforced by hundreds of thousands of federal bureaucrats. The federal agencies are now conducting within the state of Florida war on drugs and terror, to enforcing worker safety, environmental, gun control, banking, land use, fish and wildlife regulations, taxes. They've set up through the No Child Left Behind. They have the U.S. Department of Education. They have unconstitutional firearm regulation, unconstitutional fishing regulation. They set up a whole host of acronym agencies. The USDA, OSHA, FEMA, FTC, the FDA, GSA, Department of Interior, Department of Transportation, the DHS, IRS, HUD, DOJ, Department of Interior, HAS, DOC, FBI, FCC, DEA, BATF, CIA, with hundreds and hundreds of additional subsidiaries, and they wonder why this nation is going broke. Well, if you have paid attention to any of the news over the past 6 months, it's obvious that we are in the middle of a crisis, and there is a coming crisis approaching us. There are issues right now that are putting tremendous pressure on our ability of our government to sell U.S. Treasuries. The Federal Reserve Bank has now become the second largest holder of U.S. Treasuries. We have foreigners that are considering dumping our debt. The size of the federal government is growing, and I'll tell you, the the importance of what we're doing here is that this economic crisis that we're facing as a result of this federal bureaucracy, that's as a result of not respecting the sovereignty of how this republic is intended, is going to foist some issues and foist decisions upon the people of this country like they have never had. And the importance of what we're doing today is, I will tell you, you could see already this past weekend, the IMF is already stepping into this currency war and trying to make decisions on behalf of us Americans of how our monetary policy is going to be run in this country. And as this crisis hits, the media is going to do one of the greatest sales jobs in the history of mankind to convince Americans that we need to globalize our economic systems that they're trying to do. Going to work to try to make everything that we're doing, that this is some 1964 issue or 1864 issue that we have right now. But I'll tell you again, the issue of nullification is the preservation of the great experiment of the Republic of the United States. The solutions that I see that we have to do, for example, there is a lot of talk going on regarding the state Senate race. And there were a couple of outstanding bills before the legislature this past year that were declared. The Florida Supreme Court refused to allow these bills to be decided upon by the people. The Supreme Court justices of the state of Florida, there are some that are coming up for election, and I'll tell you, there's very little discussion. It is these positions of Attorney General, of Governor, of your circuit court judges, of your state attorneys. It is these positions that this movement is going to grow, that these issues are going to take leg, that we're going to have legislators with the courage to introduce these bills into the state houses, that we're going to have Supreme Court justices that take an original constructionist view of the Constitution of the state of Florida and the Constitution of the United States. And if they are going to we're going to have a Supreme Court in one of these states is going to make a magnanimous decision, and they're going to say the state of Florida will not stand for this any longer. One day we will have